History Channel. They have a new, it's just here, August 30th, and it talks about a bunch of bullshit about Al Qaeda and some horse shit, but basically it says right here that right here, Port Authority detective assigned to FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, when we identified Khalik Sheikh Mohammed, that's the same person Bush, when he slips up and says they got the information that he knew that they planted the explosives high enough so no one could get out. Says right here when they identified him for the 1993 World Trade Center bombings. So there was a van bombing, and just like Oklahoma City bombing. And so how could this guy know about the explosives on the 93 and the explosives that were planted in the World Trade Centers, and not be part of the inside job? That it seems like deep state's just using this guy as a prostitute Muslim, and I think that this is a fraud. If you want to do a CSI type investigation on my software, and just all the videos are online, you guys can see that it's definitely issues here of an inside job. Look at that right here, bank heist. This is the subway. 9/11 bank heist. 30 years bank heist. That's the day of 9/11. That's what was on the front page of the newspaper.
From the site of the ever-present problem of smoldering debris erupts again here. The smell.
What is in that?
For us.
And on a historic portion.
Now expanded national and world news coverage every morning on News Radio 1080 KRLD. The World News Roundup at 7. Every morning only on News Radio 1080. Let's go to Gwen in Weatherford. You're on KRLD.
Hi, Ernie.
Hello, Gwen.
I had just driven into town. We live in the country, and all of Weatherford's square have their flags out. Awesome, and brought tears to my eyes.
Isn't it amazing to think that these terrorists did what no politician, no speaker, no anything, nothing else, no one else could do, and that is bring Americans together.
Together and in prayer.
Yep. Thank you very much. Good.
What a fraud.
But we're here. The question. Body count. The terrorist bombings.
Just watch people, when you come in and sign name here. Yep.
You're filming everyone who comes in the door?
Yeah, everyone.
Why?
Just safety,
Safety?
Why have there been threats?
They've been
Anything that
threatened.
you're worried about? Anything?
Yeah.
And then all the racists in the military after this. People are victims.
And what's happened here since the attack on the Trade Center? Any problems?
Listen to some of the message.
I hope they send all of you back. I hope they kill you people, innocent people also. Go back to your country. We don't want you here. Message recorded on September 12th at 4:01 p.m.
We don't know what to say. Day before yesterday, they beat one woman there, and they ripped up their scarf and everything, and all of our women, they are scared to go outside.
Hate
Right
crimes.
now. This is a hatred wave. It will go away. I I hope it is like that, because we came with a dream here. This is America, where everybody is respected and treated like a same. Maybe this is not the same America we came for.
Hello, Muslims. They're gonna kick you in the ass now. Now, you know that? Afghanistan is hit you right now. You know that? You're f***ed up big time. Thank you. Goodbye.
What do you bet that was an army person? And here's the army Mike Prisner racism speech, where he talks about, you know, after 9/11 and the army, sand nigger, towelhead.
And we're not getting enough people out of there yet. Each day that passes, a little less hope.
Firefighters, 52 and a half hours later, have walked out, or at least been found alive in that rubble. 2 of them walked out. Of course, it's great news, but then there's the other side of the coin. The city has requested 30,000 body bags.
$9/13. What do you know? Tupac's death.
This is the whole staging area in
Anniversary.
front of my house.
1 year after I hacked him.
Military.
To the day.
Volunteers. It's just insane here.
From a car from the epicenter. We have not seen any readings that indicate, except for one time,
Listen to this lady.
Can I ask you a question about the environment? I was concerned. I'm wearing this mask. What do you know about the risk?
except for one time, one sample, one reading, and that came from dust from a car from the epicenter. We have not seen any readings that indicate a health hazard.
Yeah, come on.
Check it out. It's right straight down there. How far down can you go? Went all the way down, right to the site. Where do you see?
As soon as Congress acts on this bill, the men our intelligence agencies believed helped orchestrate the 9/11 attacks can face justice. Bill would also provide clear rules for our personnel involved in detaining and questioning captured terrorists. The information that the Central Intelligence Agency has obtained by questioning men like Khalek Sheikh Mohammed
So the CIA, like Brennan, huh?
has provided valuable
Yeah.
information and has
Crappy.
helped disrupt terrorist plots, including strikes within the United States. For example, Khalek Sheikh Mohammed described the design of planned attacks on buildings inside the U.S. and how operatives were directed to carry them out.
And the CIA knows, right?
That is valuable information for those of us who have the responsibility to protect the American people. He told us the operatives have been instructed to ensure that the
So right there, we'll go back to this. Road to 9/11. littered with opportunities they missed, including me. I told them it was going to go down before it did. And they locked me up in the hospital and told me I was crazy. And so, we'll go back to the little page. Was it, little Boston, you know, important. The 93 World Trade Center bombing was, you know, why didn't they do anything more? And so, Port Authority detective assigned to FBI's Joint Terrorist Task Terrorism Force, you know, they identified Khalid Sheikh Mohammed as the person who wired money to some other guy for the 1993 bombing. So, so this guy knows how they basically bombed the first time, and this guy knows how they wired all the bombs the second time. And so, I guess, yeah, that kind of seems suspicious how this guy knows so much. And Osama bin Laden's supposed to be the guy that they're after, but the CIA's talked to this other guy who knows all about the explosives and all that stuff. It just seems kind of really fishy, if you ask me. Something just doesn't add up right. You know, when you add up the other videos here that are on the list here. And so it's definitely something that's been on my mind. How you know, the injustices here have played out, because it's just not fair.
World Trade Center 7 had always been considered the starting point for rebuilding. Located north of the slurry wall, 7 had been cleared faster than the rest of the site.
And why?
And there had been no bodies to recover.
Maybe you could ask Sheikh Mohammed, maybe he'd know.
Pelted by debris when the North Tower collapsed, 7 burned until late afternoon, allowing occupants to evacuate to safety.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
ATF. What's that guy doing there? Maybe they should ask Sheikh Mohammed. Maybe Bush should know. ATF again. But Larry never talked to the freaking fire department. Larry Silverstein never knew anything about the fire department or ATF or Secret Service. No, he only knew about cashing the money to get his paychecks for his new building that he designed the year before this. The Secret Service guy's got a smile on his face. Floor 23 was already evacuated. All the people came down the stairs and they actually had a bus waiting for them. Yep, they evacuated because they knew it was going down. Part of the building already collapsed. That's why the windows were busted out. watch it when the penthouse falls. You can see all the windows buckle.
Size of the building come down?
I don't know. Something fell. What you see?
It was pretty clear at one point, and then there's a whole bunch of smoke and glass. And I think we're just about the last ones in this building right now. I think you should leave. Everybody else is gone.
Okay.
I'll just make sure that there's nobody else coming downstairs.
What happened?
I hear the top of the building fell down. Fell over on us.
Like he doesn't know.
I haven't seen outside.
And he gets a smile when he looks at his hat. Because he had to use it when he's watching it go down. He had to look what was going on. That's what I'd use that hat for if I was there. And so yeah, what a fraud. Huge fraud.
And so, next thing you know, we've got the designs of a building. And the first design meeting was in April of 2000. And construction began shortly thereafter in 2002.
Right after 9/11, go figure.
But we ran into a problem. We couldn't collect the insurance
God, you wonder why.
because the insurance companies didn't want to pay.
Fucking ATF, Secret
There were
Service,
22 insurance companies
Fire Department.
defending 22 insurers who didn't want to pay their obligations under the policies.
Obligations.
And so they took me to
Fraud.
court. And I had to beat them in court, the lower court. And then had to take an appeal and win in the upper court.
How did you win?
So they owed me $4.5 billion. A new governor was just elected.
Oh, that's right.
Elliot Spitzer,
That's
an
must
old
be
friend
right.
who I knew well.
The old one put up a fight.
I said, Elliot, if you don't help me, I'll never collect from the insurance companies. And guess what? He listened and he said, you know what? You're entitled. I'm going to get you the money. And in 6 months, he got me the $4.5 billion.
$4.5 billion.
The insurance companies didn't like me,
Of course not.
but at least I got the money. But at least
he got the money.
A football field. There were now only 42,000 feet.
He was more concerned about square feet than money.
And the building is going to contain not 2 million feet, but 1.7 million.
But 1.7 million.
And that's one of the sacrifices we have to make. I said, let's make it and let's get on with it.
This one's for Larry Silverstein. Last time we talked, sir, I asked you if you could address some of the 9/11 conspiracy theories that you were accused of. Sadly, your response has actually invited more of them. I mean, for the record, everybody knows your infamous comments on PBS where you said pull Building 7 on 5/25 on the day of 9/11.
They were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. Listen, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. They made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building.
Here's what ATF stands for.
Your official response was that it was the firefighters. My question is, it was pretty clear that you meant the building, and if it was the firefighters, they already are outside the building by 12 because the water lines were broken. Ask the question. And the fire chief that you said you spoke to, Fire Chief Negro, denies talking to you on that day of 9/11. Can you answer those questions and address the theories against you?
I suggest everybody's consideration that we all look at the thousands of pages of testimony that have been rendered in many years since 9/11, and let's use today's session for some of this.
Are you aware of testimony of bombs in the building before the building collapsed, sir? Are you aware of that testimony? Sir, there's testimony by Barry Jenner. Sir, you don't have to touch me. Listen, I'll walk away. All I'm asking is a question. I don't have to be kicked out. It's a legitimate question. You don't have to put your hands on me. But all I'm saying is, no, I'm not. I'm here after the question was not answered. That's why I have a grievance. Larry Silverstein was told not to come into work. That's why him, his daughter, and his son never showed up to work on 9/11. He put an insurance policy on the building Reporters, do your job. Please ask some questions. I want my money back. I'm down there pounding in your back. You got me on my knees, friend, for everything you lack. I ain't afraid of you. I'm just a victim of your fear. You cower in your tower, praying that I'll disappear. I ain't got another plan.
Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, and crypto.
Jesse Ventura never shies away from a fight, not as a Navy SEAL, bodyguard for the Rolling Stones, pro wrestler, or as governor of Minnesota. And he's picking plenty more with his new book, 63 Documents the Government Does Not Want You to Read. Welcome back, Jesse Ventura. And I do promise, you do not have to follow Chris Rock the next time you're on the show.
Thank you, George. He is a tough act to have to follow. What a funny guy.
He is a very funny guy. But let's get right sure. Because we talked about this a little bit your last time on the show as well. This whole idea that you have some documents which you say at least reinforce the idea that the government had advanced knowledge that 9/11 could happen.
Absolutely.
And didn't work to stop it. Now, I find a hard time believing you actually believe that.
Why? I'm a Vietnam veteran, and they lied to me about the Gulf of Tonkin incident. And that was the false flag operation that put us into the Vietnam War, where 58,000 of my generation were killed. And now, I was teaching at Harvard. When McNamara came through, it admitted it never happened. False flag operations, if you go through history, happen all the time before these wars.
But that's very different from saying that the government knew 9/11 was coming, knew the planes were coming, and didn't try to stop it.
Well, take a look at my book. It's no more shocking than our government going down to Nicaragua and infecting hundreds of people with syphilis to see if penicillin worked. George, let me state this. There are great people that work in government. There are dedicated, patriotic people in government. But when you read this book, the scary part of this book for me, you could substitute the word Nazi and it would work.
But the documents you use on 9/11 show, well, there's one document that suggests that Tower 7 fell down faster than it could have fallen down just by natural.
It doesn't suggest it, it says it. It said it fell at, NIST report said it fell at free fall.
So then you
wait a minute. That means you got to defy the laws of physics. That means everything was removed in which for anything to fall at free fall. But then you make that leap then to the idea that it was demolished by explosives inside by the government. I don't make a leap. Why didn't they check for explosives? They never did, if not to eliminate them. They didn't do that. This book is all documents that are out in the public domain. I'm not WikiLeaks. I didn't steal anything. You just got to find them. And there are documents here so disturbing, like the CIA's assassination manual. Excuse me, assassination is just a nice word for first-degree murder, and we have a manual that tells how to do it and everything about it. As far as I know, George, first-degree murder is illegal in every country in the world.
But aren't there some cases where it would be justified? A tyrant who's killing hundreds of thousands of people?
Who makes the call? I'll say this, too, about if we go back to bin Laden. Why haven't we indicted him? That gives us reason to go get him. We haven't indicted him. The government has never come forward, convened a grand jury, presented one shred of evidence that he did it officially, and get an indictment.
So you don't believe he was behind it either?
I don't know. But my government's lied to me so often, they've lost their credibility with me, George.
And you do have the documents you say support some of these theories in the book.
And the good thing about this book, it's not me telling you about the documents. I give you my opinion, but then we reprint every document so the reader can read for themselves.
I want to switch gears right now. You've had such a varied career. You're even once on a soap opera, Young and Restless.
I've got a bone to pick with you. What's that? Why the hell did you decide not to run for president? I mean, imagine the coming elections are boring the way they are. It would have been far more interesting with you in it. Well, there's always 2004.
How about
Which
2012?
version?
No way.
I will tell you this. If Ron...
Second inner column. Got another view from the back. For a while longer.
I know you said there'll be a time for politics, but you've also said you wanted to change the tone of Washington. Howard Dean recently seemed to muse aloud whether you had advanced knowledge of 9/11. Do you agree or disagree with the RNC that this kind of rhetoric borders on political hate speech?
Yeah. There's time for politics.
Muhammad.
And,
Advanced. 93.
It's time for politics. And It's an absurd insinuation.
Yeah, so absurd, despite you talking about the placement of explosives high enough so that the people on the floors above couldn't escape, huh?
And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs.
Thanks, Obama.
That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
And my copyrights and my trademarks and anything that I ever wanted. So I'd just be a slave to your system while you guys cash out in Wall Street. I like how that works on Microsoft. Here we go. 1991. 9/11.
For generations, a new world order. A world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
9/11, 1991.
When we are successful, and we will be.
Oh yeah, great job.
We have a real chance at this new world order. An order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
1993.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
10 years later to the day.
Like one of those scenes of an old building being purposely dynamited and blown up.
A new world order where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind.
Like Iraq.
And security.
Kill all the Muslims.
Watch the building being
Islamophobia.
Knows that if you're going to do this, you have to get at the under
Look at all that.
infrastructure of a building and bring it down.
Those are fucking steel beams that weigh tons.
Our fifth objective, a new world order, can emerge. Now we can see a new world coming into view.
Yeah, they just burnt down freaking Paris. Yep, lots of good stuff here.
At Jimmy John's, we know how much you care about freshness, quality.
All right, everyone, we're going to get this video out there real quick. I wanted to make this number 217 voting video in the incredible Mandela Effect voting video series. Yesterday, I was watching Scared Performance video
You don't know.
on who's changing 9/11 events, and he mentioned the book that Bush was reading in the classroom to the students in Florida when 9/11 occurred. And
history changed.
I know this really well. There's a huge Mandela effect for me because I used to show this to people at Safeway all the time. I used to bring this up
WorldCom.
about the words that the kids were reciting. It just always blew my mind. So
before that,
I'm going to show you right here what the name of the book is. This is what it's always been.
Into the World Trade Center. For now, the event at the school continued.
And we were following our normal pattern of reading, and the pet goat just happened to be the next story. The pet goat. The pet goat.
The pet goat. That was the name of the story. Well, that's not the name of the story that I remember. That's from a different history. Because the history, well, that's from the history we're in, or I don't know, whatever you want to say, but I remember a history where it was President Bush read the story, My Pet Goat, not The Pet Goat. So here we have another the. My last video was on the word the popping up in front of dark side of the moon, the dark side of the moon. Well, that just sounds ridiculous, but that's what it's always been. Well, now we have the pet goat. He was reading My Pet Goat. So I have some reality residue to show you here. I don't know how many times I've seen the clip of him in the room. This little clip they're showing right here in the corner. So listen to this here.
The fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Yes, kite. Steel. Yes, steel. Get ready. Plane. Yes, plane. Get ready. Must. Yes, must.
Now, I showed you this because this is what I used to show people all the time at Safeway. Of all the lists of words that these kids could have had on the morning Bush is sitting there when planes were hitting the Twin Towers, they're reading their word list is kite, steel, plane, must, hit. Really? I mean, Jesus.
Really?
How could this even be possible?
Think, people.
That's always been so mind-blowing
World
to me.
Trade
How
Center
could that be
7?
the list of words? I just
Like,
don't.
come on.
Anyway, I don't want to get into that. We'll just stick to the
Quantum,
My Pet Goat,
HTML,
okay?
CSS.
My
We
Pet
code
Goat.
every piece of particle on the internet of everything. 9/11 was a huge
President George W. Bush.
informational
My
disaster.
Pet Goat.
Airtime.
My Pet Goat. My Pet Goat. That was the name of the book that he was reading. It was called My Pet Goat. That was the name. Here we go with this.
Berenstain Bears.
It's all My Pet Goat all over the place. Oh, they're just getting it all wrong. A lot of people
Wrong.
It was always the pet goat. Well, yeah, you're right. Currently, it was always the pet goat. But you know what? I remember My Pet Goat.
Mr. Bush just sat there and continued to read My Pet Goat with the children. Nearly 7 minutes past.
Not in this reality. In this reality, he sat there and continued to read The Pet Goat. But I clearly, distinctly remember it as being My Pet Goat. So if you do too, please sum this up. Now, this is not going to affect everyone. A lot of people are going to be blown away by this, by the name change of the book. Others are going to not even really ever know what it was, so it won't affect them. But for those of you who knew the name of the book, who have seen this clip 50 times or 100 times or whatever. I mean, I researched 9/11 hundreds of hours, and I've seen this clip so many times of him in the classroom. I always knew the book as My Pet Goat. I've never heard it as anything else because that's what it was.
Guys want to read a story here, huh? Huh? It's going to be fun. This one's called My Pet Goat. Here we go. A girl had a pet goat. It's a pretty good start. The girl liked to play with the goat. But the goat was bad. He ate too many things. He ate caps, and he even ate capes. And then one day, a robber came.
A robber. And a bank heist.
The second attack, I guess, is the one that's captured on news film, because he's in the middle of a photo opportunity reading to these, or listening to these children read My Pet Goat in the elementary school class in Sarasota, Florida. My personal analysis of this is that he is frozen in fear, terror, and panic.
Then he calls Jeb.
So, of course, if you go to newspapers.com, tons and tons of newspapers.
It's My Pet Goat.
Listening to
Everyone knows
children
My Pet
reading from
Goat.
My Pet Goat.
375 thumbs
2004.
up to 23 thumbs down.
Let's see.
So, this guy's got a
2005, My
video.
Pet. Hi, everyone. I've been working on a video that I'm hopefully going to come out with in a few hours. But I wanted to make this quick video and ask everyone whether they believe that 9/11 was an inside job or they believe the official story. So this is for people that are affected by the Mandela effect phenomenon that has been happening. I'm just curious
That I practically
if you are
designed.
extremely affected or even
But,
partially affected, as long as
I
you
mean,
believe it's
it
a
wasn't
phenomenon
part of the code
and
until
not
this
people
one
who
thing
don't notice
happened on
anything and just think it's all made up and
9/10/2001,
all this other
and somebody ran a program.
If you're affected
for
by the phenomenon,
airtime.
please thumb this video up if you believe that 9/11 was an inside job. If you have questions about planes landing where it doesn't appear they landed, Building 7 coming down in its own footprint,
Jet
like
fuel.
controlled demolition, never being hit by any plane or anything, just coming down in the afternoon. If all these things just seem bizarre to you and you believe there's something weird or not right about 9/11, that there could have been some forewarned knowledge of maybe a few people that were on the inside, that it was probably an inside job. Please sum this up. If you think that the official story is correct and that one man halfway around the world in a cave controlled 19 men with box cutters to pull this all off, and it happened just the way that the official story says, please thumb this down. That's it. Just a quick video. I'm just curious to see who believes that this was an inside job or who believes that it went down exactly the way that we were told. From people who are affected by this phenomenon that's been going on. That's it.
I am announcing our intent to designate the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, including its Quds Force, as a foreign terrorist organization in accordance with Section 219 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. This designation will take effect 1 week from today. This is the first time that the United States has designated a part of another government as an FTO. We're doing it because the Iranian regime's use of terrorism as a tool of statecraft makes it fundamentally different from any other government.
Like Jesse said, who's the one that
This
saves
historic
the
step will
terrorists?
deprive the world's leading state sponsor of terror the financial means to spread misery and death around the world.
Now joining us
What a
to
joke.
analyze what this means for Iran and the world, because in my opinion, it's a rather dangerous upping of the Trump administration's policies towards
Sure
Iran,
is.
Larry Wilkerson. Larry is...
So let's see some what is it, the other videos here. We got here we go.
If you understand this one concept, you can make a full-time income from home. And if you don't believe me, that's completely fine. You shouldn't when a guy...
Thank you, Dan. Comprehensive report. We appreciate it. Jesse Ventura is the former governor of the state of Minnesota. He's also a former U.S. Navy SEAL, a man who's never been afraid to speak his mind when it comes to the U.S. government and some of its actions overseas. And he's kind enough to share some of his time with us tonight. Governor, thanks so much for joining us as usual. And I guess we just have to start with your reaction when you learned the news today that Assange had been arrested both by the Brits and I guess eventually to be extradited to the United States.
Well, I kind of figured, Rick, that it was going to happen eventually. You know, things like this always turn out generally for the worse. What upsets me the most about this is, what did WikiLeaks reveal? They revealed war crimes, and yet no one in this country, and we've been at war for 20 years now, almost of straight war in multiple countries, and not one person has been charged with a war crime. When WikiLeaks showed war crimes happening, you know, I view Julian Assange as a hero, personally, because he's a person that exposes the government, and the government doesn't want you to know the truth, and they will do anything. And I'll tell you what, if they prosecute this guy, journalism and news as we know it and the First Amendment will never be the same again.
You make a great point because, you know, even I remember my own teachings at the University of Minnesota from Dr. Donald Gilmore at the School of Journalism, who said the journalist's first defense whenever he's charged with any crime is truth. And if we can prove, or if Julian Assange can prove that everything that he reported was actually true, it may make the government's case against him somewhat more thin, correct?
Well, and look at other things too, Rick. Yes, that's true. Look at John Carrico of the CIA. He's the guy that exposed the torture, and yet he went to prison. Not the people who tortured. They get off scot-free, just like WikiLeaks and Bradley Manning or Chelsea Manning now, when they showed the murderous from the helicopter shooting people, murdering innocent civilians. Those are war crimes, and yet nobody's been prosecuted, and we do have two big war criminals, George Bush and Dick Cheney, because they advocated for torture, and torture is a war crime.
And all their friends.
What do you say to people who say, how can you say that, Governor Ventura, given the fact that you wore a uniform and served your country, how can you say things like that?
Easy.
How can I say that? Because it's the truth. That's as simple as it is. Excuse me, these are war crimes. Torture is a war crime, Rick. I've been waterboarded. I know what it's like. I got it in SEER school. It is torture. And you're talking to a former competitive swimmer, a former member of underwater demolition SEAL team who deals in water all the time. It is torture. No doubt about it. And Cheney and Bush advocated for it. They rubber stamped it. And all the rest of this garbage in these wars, that we will not look hard at what we're doing and what our country is turning into today.
Is there any question in your mind, and we're down to 22nd, that he will in fact be extradited from the Brits over to the United States? Or do you think they'll hold off?
Oh, he absolutely will be. Absolutely he'll be here. And I hope this country comes out in mass protest when he does arrive here for a trial that he will not get a fair one in this country anyway.
The one and only Jesse Ventura, former governor of the great state of...
Jesse, what would you have done on September the 12th, 2001? What would you have done if you'd been president?
What would I have done?
Yeah.
I would have done a legitimate investigation to find out what exactly happened on 9/11. How did they know who did this so quickly like they did Lee Harvey Oswald? How quick they knew Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy.
Because the people who did it were identified.
And the Mandela effect?
Then why couldn't we have stopped them beforehand if they were identified and we knew who
it was a failure of intelligence. Everyone's accepted
No, it wasn't. We knew before with Condoleezza Rice's memo on August 6th when it stated right in the memo Bin Laden to steal planes and run them into buildings. And more stuff is coming out now also, how much the Bush administration ignored the intelligence. It was almost like they ignored it because they wanted it to happen.
Yep.
Oh, come on, Jesse.
Wait a minute. Every war fought starts with a false flag operation.
You can't, in all seriousness, sit there and try and make out anybody in the Bush
let me ask you this, Piers. Wait a minute. Let me ask
Bush
you something.
administration
How
wanted
much
it to happen.
studying have you actually done of 9/11 other than what the government's told you and what mainstream media has told you? I've been studying
of
a national newspaper.
I've talked to people.
Wait a minute. In depth every day for 5-6 months.
Really?
So I know a lot about it.
Yeah. What a joke.
And good guys don't need... This is the timeline. The South Tower of the World Trade Center was hit around 9 o'clock. Then the North Tower was hit. Air traffic in the U.S. was closed about 9:30.
MCI, all the data got blown up, and then Verizon got to take over.
Via videotape from Louisiana. Around 10 o'clock, a plane crashed at the helicopter pad at the Pentagon.
Went from
Did damage, set
GTE
fire
straight
to
to
portions of
Verizon.
the Pentagon. There have been some casualties. Any dead? We don't know. There were some injured because we saw them at the Pentagon. Then the South Tower incredibly
I tried to blow a
collapsed.
whistle.
Then the North Tower,
I made Prince Network.
towers, the World Trade Center collapsed. And one pauses after you say that because, you know,
and organized in that fashion, that causes me concern. I certainly agree with what Senator McCain said about the fact that many, many years ago, we abandoned human intelligence. The attitude was...
World Trade Center 7 had always been considered the starting point for rebuilding. Located north of the slurry wall, 7 had been cleared fast. 7 burned until late afternoon, allowing
the loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Look at that.
What is that? What is that? Oh, that's part of a person. Yeah.
as soon as Congress acts on this bill, the men our intelligence agencies believed helped orchestrate the 9/11 attacks can face justice.
How is that going to happen?
Bill would also provide clear rules for our personnel
FBI's
involved in
crooked,
detaining and questioning
CIA's
captured
crooked.
terrorists.
Captured terrorists, huh?
The information that the Central Intelligence Agency has obtained by questioning men like Khalek Sheikh Mohammed
In 93, too.
has provided valuable information and has helped disrupt terrorist plots, including strikes within the United States.
What, and he's in captive and he knows all this?
For example, Khalek Sheikh Mohammed described the design of planned attacks on buildings inside the U.S. and how operatives were directed to carry them out. That is valuable information for those of us who have the responsibility to protect the American people.
Protect the American who?
He told us the operatives have been instructed to ensure that the explosives went off at a point that was high enough to prevent people
from escaping.
Trapped above from escaping.
Who knew too much?
The explosives went off at a point that was high enough to prevent people
I mean, what a joke.
trapped.
Couldn't escape, huh?
Welcome to reality.
Go lay out a strategy and try to execute that. That's the one thing. Second, you had to deal with the incoming fire. When George Bush and Al Gore ran for president, they had 3 debates. Nobody said, what are you going to do when the twin trade towers come down, when the Pentagon's bombed?
What was that, Bill? When the twin trade towers come down and the Pentagon's what?
Twin trade towers come down when the Pentagon's bombed.
Pre-known.
Oh, bombed. Sir, Trade Center was hit by a plane, as we've all been told before.
Bushes,
haven't you
rigged
heard George Bush?
Let us never
Y2K,
tolerate outrageous
Florida.
conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty.
In fact, wasn't it you who, after being questioned if you'd be open to a new investigation on the events of 9/11, told people that we look like a bunch of idiots for questioning the given narrative?
What are you screaming about? Let him talk.
Support a new investigation into the attacks of 9/11.
Are you one of those that was an inside job, guys? Well, let me tell you something. The great thing, first, Hillary agrees we should end the war. But we've heard from you now. Now you hear from me. I'll let you be rude and interrupt me. Scream at the top of your lungs. "9/11 was not an inside job. It was an Osama bin Laden job with 19 people from Saudi Arabia. They murdered 3,000 Americans and other farmers, including
World Trade
over
Center
200
7.
other Muslims. And we look like idiots, folks, denying that the people who murdered our fellow citizens did it when they are continuing to murder people all around the world. So we heard from you. You go away.
Bill, we've heard from you. You go away. And that horse you rode in on. Oh, that's Hillary? My bad. Her too, though, please. I mean, really, folks, if people would just honestly use their brains and not just be parrots of this elite Marxist...
So, I mean, that is the land of unconfirmed radio.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Did it have anything to do with your visit?
I'm sure it did.